Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is your favorite warlock, practicing necromancer. First of all, I'd like to say that I can't believe it's been 10 months since the last time I did a video on Dark Sorcery. I believe on my own channel I've done it off and on, but nothing consistent. But to be fair, it's been a very harsh year for some of us. And, I've had friends that have had lots of death in their lives this year. They've lost animals, they've lost loved ones. And my own apprentice lost an aunt, I've lost two animal, you know, two dogs, two puppies. Another friend had to put his dog down because he was sick. There's just been a lot of death this year alone. And so I had to get away for a little while. Didn't really communicate with people, didn't really get around people. So for my absence, that's what's been going on. Now, the nature of this video is the altar of death. And I focused it upon key components, okay? Key components of primary sources that you can look up yourself. And since Dark Sorcery is considered to be an education foundation, an organization built off education, I thought it would be prudent and wise to do it here. If Alfredo Martinez or one of the other admin want to take this video and put it on the other channel, White Sorcery or Light Sorcery, then they're more than welcome to do so, because this is considered to be both light and dark type magic that will benefit you as a practitioner. So, first of all, what is a death altar? In most religions, there have been talk and depictions of altars dedicated to ancestral magic. Things that are associated with animal familiars, things that you would set up to deal with or to communicate with your deities, your patrons and patronesses. So after months of dedicated, reflective practice of meditation, of communion with my own spiritual guides, my own deities, I've had to define necromancy as I've known it over 8 years. So I wrote down some key things here, and I want you to pay attention. An altar of death can be traced back to many cultural foundations, such as the Aztecs, where it's known as De los Muertos. Now, what's ironic here is tomorrow and Sunday is the 1st and 2nd of November. Now, it's ironic that this time of year is associated with the Witch's Sabbath. Okay? You got the Witch's Sabbath, you got the Baal's harvest, the harvest of Baal, the Lord himself, from Canaanite and Chaldean mythology and folklore, demonolatry, the Goetia, he's one of the kings. But also the Day of the Dead. And this is a time of year where you can call on these beings, such as your animal familiars, your pets that have passed away, your loved ones, like your parents, your siblings, your ancestral lineages, and just pay homage to them. Dia los Muertos is known as the Day of the Dead. in Aztec and Mayan belief structure. This is central to South American belief structure, and it's in Latin America. It is one of those type of practices that is meant for two things. One is to guide them home, and two, it's a place of offerings. It is a place of communion. It is a place of prayer, and you'll see why in just a few minutes. Now, makeshift altars or personal altars are made to honor and remember those that are no longer with us. Okay? And this can be done with food, flowers, drinks, and other types of offerings that you can place in or on that altar. So let's say, for example, you have a private room that you have dedicated to your ancestral lineage, such as in voodoo, in Haitian Voodoo, voodooism. How about even hoodooism? Brujeria, which is also another hereditary family lineage. You got Santeria even. So it's a where you have to be initiated by both the Orisha, the Loa, and most importantly, your ancestral spirits, if you choose to work with them. Now, in Christian belief, the key component of sacrifice is that of Jesus on the cross. And like the altars of Dia la Muerte, Los Morte, this is done through remembrance and respect, worship. This is why you'll find a lot of zealots who believe so much in it that it doesn't matter how much evidence you put in front of them, they're not going to believe you. They've got that much faith and that much dedication in working with that deity. Okay? So basically, you would see things like a purple linen, like satin or silk, that is placed around the altar. In voodooism, you would have an altar dedicated to a particular Loa or to an ancestral lineage. And you'll want that to be covered when not in use. So you definitely want that separated from any other altar that you're working with from various different Loa. Because anyone who knows any type of practitioner, practice, you don't want to put angels in with demons, and you definitely don't want to put the lower in with your ancestors. It's a sign of disrespect to those deities, you know what I'm saying, and those beings. So you'd want to put things like photos of your ancestors. You want to put items such as clothing. Let's say, for example, if you've lost a pet, you want their collar with their name tag. Perhaps their harness and leash, a photo of them. You'll want flowers and drinks and different types of offerings that you can give them. And I'll go into more detail on that in a little bit. Now, every culture has a formulation of a death altar. For an example, the various setups in sacrifices, like I said, with Christ, or in Hebrewism, Jewish, and Jewish customs, or Islamic, you also have the Buddhism. And I like Buddhism. I love the Japanese culture. I love working with the way of the warrior, especially as a spiritualist, a necromancer and everything. So I want you to take a look at a couple of things. First, in Palo Mayombe, Santa, you have the Nganga. Okay, this is a cauldron. This cauldron would have bones, dirt, ashes, weaponry, such as katanas or machetes, knives, both human and animal skulls and bones. But they would also have glyphs or hieroglyphs, some kind of symbols on them for protection, for religious summonings. You would have items that you would place around it associated with the dead or the deceased. Some Poleros, Marimberos even, Lucimo, or whatever you want, these higher ups in the religions, would, depending on which religion you're in, you want to keep that in mind. You want to, they will basically, you want to respect them because when they work with the dead, they would be most likely wearing the clothing of the deceased. This is something that a lot of people would not even consider, especially in modern day, especially with such fear of death and dying. That's why I recommend the Tibetan Book of the Dead to people, because it gets you prepared, it gets you in that mind state, and it really breaks it down on the stages of death and what comes after. Because death is only the beginning. There's so many more worlds, so many dimensions, and realms and realities out there that you can go to and visit. So you'd want the particular loa that is going to reside in that Nganga, and that's normally given to you upon your initiation into the religion. And a lot of times this is done through what is known as a cutting or marking. It can take anywhere from an hour to 5 hours and so forth, depending on who's doing the ritual. It's very painful, very disorienting, and when you are finally initiated fully into the religion of Pedro Mayumbi, then you would be given a Nganga, you would be given an Orisha that will work with you for the rest of your life and beyond. So one of the Orisha that I would recommend that you get to know, especially if you want to be a necromancer, a grave lord, or a lich, for an example, if you want to practice the path workings of lichdom, I would recommend Oya to you. She is the goddess of dead, the folk saint of death. Much like Santa Morte, Saint Death, Holy Death. Even if you want to work with, let's go for Creole, New Orleans voodooism. You have Baroness Dembella. Or if you want to go old school, you have the Rada spirit himself, the Lord of the Dead, known as Baron Samedi. I like Baron Samedi, but you'd have to go through Papa Legba to open up the gate to him, and it's a lot of extra steps. So you'd have to, bring proper offerings, and open those planar gates, and not just the planar gates, but with these beings. Now, what's ironic here is the Nganga is a very good symbol of death and raw power. Because when you're working with the dead, that's basically what it is. Any Bokor or Capilata works with the dead as well, and they can work with various different aspects, from light to dark magics. That's why it's called gray. There is no black magic or white magic, it's just gray. It's gray magic, so therefore it would be coming down to your intent, your intention and what you're trying to achieve. And so bringing up necromancy, a death altar is great for working with various different entities, such as Anubis, the lord of the graveyards, the protector of the grave. Even, he's the jackal-headed dog man that, stands on a platform guiding souls to either heaven, hell, purgatory, or wherever they're supposed to end up. But there's also what is called a death altar, and this is another form of ancestral lineage, or even dedicated to animal familiars. You can set this up to your deities, your patrons and patronesses, and you would be putting things on there like ashes, leashes, collars, clothes, bones, blood, fur, pictures of the deceased, the dead, and you would probably be doing this either in your own private temple, or you'd be doing this at a place of natural death current, such as a cemetery or a place of death, like a closed down morgue, a abandoned church, places like that. In Japanese culture, like I said before, you have what is known as the Buddha-zan. The Butsudan is also referred to as a a Buddhist altar. And there's another aspect to this, which is in Shintoism, and it's called the Mit Emaya, okay, or Te Maya. It's sometimes referred to as the Shore Isha. And these are family altars to be remembered. And the only thing that separates the Buddhist altar from the Shinto is in Shintoism, you're dealing with your deities that you worship, not just the ancestral lineage of what you're praying to, that you're communicating to, and giving honor and remembrance to. So, whereas the Buddhist altar is more set up for the public eye, it is set up in your home for ancestral worship. So you got two different aspects there. So in Buddhism, there are normally a statue of a deity, a photo of a loved one, or ancestor, which is the cultural part of Buddhist life. Things such as the ayah memorial tablet, down to the incense, rice, candles, burn pots, and a rin known as a bell is placed upon this altar. Now, think of it like this. You probably watched, many of you like to watch TV. One of the shows is La Dragon. And it's basically it's a Mexican TV show. And I think they only made like maybe one or two seasons of it, I think. I'm not sure. I could be wrong. But it shows this guy, he's the son of a great mafia king. Okay, he's married to a Japanese woman. He works at a, one of those like $1 million conglomerates, and he's like a big stock guy. You know what I'm saying? He's right up there, and he's one of the best that brings in, like millions and millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars through trading in stocks. But then he finds out his father dies. And on top of that, his wife is dying of cancer. Okay, so when he gets to Mexico and he takes over the family and he's putting together his own team. He has this box, it's like a jewelry box thing that you can open up. It's got a photo of his wife in it. He's got incense and charcoal that he can light. This particular image shows what I'm talking about here within a Buddhism, setting, because he also had a Buddhist statue in there. Now, in Shintoism, this form of spiritual worship is for ancestral communication, dedicated to remembrance of the dead, recently departed, and the overall deceased, if you will. This type of altar is a setup to ritual factors, such as having a scrying mirror placed on it. The name or names of the deceased that you're working with, or that you'll be worshiping and, dedicating this altar to. Funerary rites of Japanese culture, for an example, would be done at this altar. And this is also done in what is, your own personal households through Shintoism practices. Now, the side note on this one is, in necromantic rites and rituals, you can set up what is known as a spirit box. This is a box that is dedicated to somebody who has died, somebody that you've loved, somebody who's been in your coven that you want to honor and worship. A brother, spiritual brother, sister, mother, father, whatever. I actually have made these things myself, and I've done this through necromantic rites and rituals. And there are various different ways to do this. One of which is to add a pendulum in there with grave dirt, sulfur powder, various different types of things like black sand, things that represent death. You'll have a photo of the deceased, the departed. within there. You would have items of clothing or whatever that you would have cut out and put in there. And this also works great with familiars as well. And like I said, I will get to that in just a second here. But some of the things that I would recommend to you if you want to go this route and honor and pay homage to the deceased, be it your pets, your beloved pets. Like this year, like I said, has been one of tremendous loss, when working with the dead, especially the loss of pets. There's been at least 20 pets that I know of that have perished this year alone. Not just that, but also actors and loved ones from people's families. So, some of the things that I would recommend for you to do is get some necromantic jade. Necromantic jade or jade, it's just basically green jade. It could be lime green, it could be grass green, pine green even. There's different colors of it. But you'd really want what is known as necromancer's jade. And then you want black onyx, okay, for the spiritual connection, the communion. This will connect you to the spiritual realm or the realm of the dead. And I want to point out to you animal familiars as a path working for you to achieve. We just about every religion, from Wicca to paganism, has some form or belief in spirits, spiritual guides, animal spirits. Native American lore is full of this. So it's not just the Aztecs or the Mayans or the Japanese culture or in necromantic practices. It's, hell, even in the Necromai icon, for an example, you have the hound. Okay? So Greek mythology, you would have Hecate in the hounds, the black dogs, the Bucharest. In Egyptian mythology, you would have the cats, the guardians of the underworld. So even if you go into Norse mythology, you have the ravens, which have two classifications. One, the raven is a messenger of Odin. You have the blackbird, which is associated with spiritualism, and these spirits can guide the soul, or the ka, if you will, to the land of the dead, the realm of the dead. And every single religion has this. Every single philosophy, every type of belief structure within witchcraft has something like this. So this is something for you to do in a ritualized setting, to set up to petition an animal spirit to be your animal familiar, your guide, your instructor, if you will. Even if you want to work with ancestral lineages, you can always call upon your blood. Blood calls blood. And that's another topic that people fear. Too many practitioners, they fear mutilating themselves, drawing blood from your casting hand and letting it drip on the altar, giving it as your pain as a sacrifice and an offering to the dead. Think of it as feeding the dead, feeding the deceased to help them come back. You can even utilize this in a form of ritualistic communion. One key book that I would recommend on this particular aspect would be the Blood Sorcery Bible, Volume 1, by the blood sorceress Cagliostro herself. Got a lot of respect for this lady. She doesn't just put in 20 to 30 pages worth of ritual acts that would strengthen your body, but she also gave different attributes to be able to commune with the dead as well. And I liked that about her work. She didn't hold anything back through blood magnetics. But yeah, these are things that you might want to look into and to benefit your practices on. But like I said, it comes down to you, your practices. It doesn't matter if you're a Satanist, a Luciferian. It doesn't matter if you're into Pedro Mayumbi, Brujeria, Santeria, voodoo, hoodooism. witchcraft, paganism, Wicca. It doesn't even matter if you're on the right-hand path, such as one of the JCI, the Judo-Christian institutions. Look into the altar of death, because that's basically what it is. And if you're on, and if you're on the right-hand path, the JCI path working, just remember the Ten Commandments if you're working with the fucking Bible. Okay, you don't want to be a hypocrite and go, hey, I'm calling on those that are in the earth, the altar of the earth, because what does it say? Thou shalt not worship gods or beings from the heavens above, in the earth, or on the earth. Okay, so just keep that in mind. But like I said, most religions have a form of crossroads. I mean, Quimbanda, you have different beings that work with the dead in the graveyard. See, I like working with the dead. I like working with demons. I like working with familiars. But I also like working with my own ancestors, and I'm working on getting in contact with my ancestors on that front as a practicing lich. So, because I do walk the path of lichdom. But here as a practicing warlock. So this is just some gnosis for you to uncover for yourself, things for you to look up. Go into various different cultures, do your homework on what an altar of death is and how it can be used from a religious perspective. And things that will benefit you in the long run. Like I said, you can call on them for being spiritual guides. You can call on them for being animal familiars, protectors, even things that you can utilize. So, like I said, that's just some gnosis that I wanted to drop down here. And I did notice that a lot of you are posting here, comment-wise, but I wanted to get my thoughts out and to get this out before I did anything with you guys. So I want to thank Mahad Tahir, Gabriel Vasquez. Did I pronounce your name right? Staying off the grid. Yeah, I like staying off the grid myself. I don't get online if I don't have to. Bear Edits. Luis Gonzalez. Pumpkin. Interesting way to put that one. Pumpkin in one. or one N rather. Gazlam Ali. Sita L. V. DeVito, and DBG7. Welcome to the channel, guys. Yeah, there are very few. I'm glad you like Dark Sorcery and the channel that that is here for you guys. I'd also recommend that you go over and look at Light Sorcery as well, which is a more recent addition. It's a whole other channel dedicated to healing and spiritualism in general. Things of like herbalism and all that stuff. Alfredo and I actually did a video together what was it? I want to say that was like months ago. I think it was like 10 months. It was the last video that I did with him. And it was actually on that channel, or for that channel. So you might want to check that one out too. Hopefully it'll be as good as this one. So, for those of you who are not comfortable in the darker aspects. Now, you can also look me up personally on YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. I do have my own accounts there as well. I give a lot of different knowledge, a lot of different books. My TikTok channel, I do not show myself, but if you see my seal, you know it's me. But I do put a lot of books on there, and I do a lot of, I put up a lot of knowledge for you guys, as much as I can. But my personal YouTube channel is the one I've been focusing on the most. I've really pulled back from Facebook. I pulled back from, I got rid of my my other channels. Got rid of them. I just don't get on them. So it's like, what's the point of having them? And like I said, I've been focusing more on myself, my practices, and my apotheosis, my and stuff like that. So I hope this has been educational. Um, I hope it's been enlightening. So feel free to subscribe. Feel free to hit that notification button so you'll know when one of us is on again. So, and like I said, feel free to look me up on TikTok, on YouTube, and on Facebook. I don't get on Facebook that often anymore, but like I said, I do get on. I do check my messages. I think I've got like maybe 400-500 friend requests right now sitting unanswered on my Facebook. Most of them, if I can't see your information or I don't see, more than one or two photos, or if you have your profile blocked or locked or whatever they call that, I'm not going to add you. I want to be able to see where and how long you've been around. There's too many fakes out there. There are too many corrupted individuals with false ideals, if you will. And I will not stand by and let knowledge be corrupted. All right? But like I said, there are some sources that I would recommend for you if you really want to get into necromancy. One of which is the Magick Cabal. Feel free to look them up on Google. They do have their own website. You can apply to it and begin your journey that way. I believe they have a Facebook group as well. I'm not in the Facebook group, so I can't really, speak to it. I tend to keep my butt away from that stuff as much as possible because I don't want to fall into traps or snares or make things a habit. But I've got a lot of respect for the Magick Cabal. More so, I would recommend, like I said, Dark Sorcery to people. This is a great one. There's a lot of different knowledges, a lot of different people that have come together to do interviews over the years on this channel. And now that they've got light sorcery up and running, I'm looking forward to seeing what's being done over there as well. So I want to thank everybody who's jumped on here with me. Thank you. It means a lot. Like I said, hit that subscribe button, that notification button. And I always like to leave you with two key pieces of information. One, whatever you preach, always back it up with numerous sources and references. It allows people to know what you're talking about and to do their own research for themselves. Okay? What I just gave you here and what I give you on my videos is nothing more than tidbits. Just tidbits. It's the tip of the iceberg, if you will. And the second thing is always make yourself available to the public because you are responsible for the things that you do and say. Okay? And what you do with this, Dark Sorcery, myself, we are in no standing of responsibility or liability for the things you do with this information. All right? That's why I give you the two key pieces of information of backing it up with numerous sources and references and making yourself available to the public. All right? So with that said, have a good day, good night, and until next time, I am out.